So your April 2023 Denver housing market update, it's pretty seasonal and it's pretty predictable at the moment since we haven't had any major rate volatility. So as you can see for median sold price for, and I always pull the South Metro Denver Realtor Association data set, so that's a 7-county Denver Metro. I don't like pulling a 10 or 11 county like some other realtor associations do because they've got Weld and Gilpin and Boulder and all these other things in there that are not really reflective of the Denver market. Those are much more mountain region, or Boulder is kind of its own thing. So our median sold price for March, so keep in mind these are March closings, so February shoppers and February under contracts was $565,000. So it was up in February, bottomed out in January. That happens every year, as I've mentioned in all my market updates. So I'll link to the last market update. And let me back up because y'all know I like data for context, right? So as you can see, we typically bottom out December, January every year, okay? Now, 2020 to 2022 is kind of an anomaly, so let me back it up even more than that. But you can see, as I've always pointed out in all my market update videos, December shoppers get the lowest prices. Those become January closings. That typically bottoms out for our seasonal market every year, right? That's where the prices bottom out. So, as you can see, and there's some anomalies in here, but generally, January prices are our lowest. So, like I said, pretty predictable. We're going up as a spring market. Now, I don't expect it to go up as much as these last two markets did because for 2021 and 2022, and 2020 was a crapshoot, I'm expecting it to be a little bit more reflective of 2016, 2017, 2018. So that moderate increase through the spring market, okay? And we're seeing that right now. So we're seeing multiple offers on properties again. We're seeing bidding wars, but not like the bidding wars in the last 2 or 3 years. So you don't have to forgive or, give up your firstborn child and a vacation and, waive all your inspections and cover $100,000 in appraisal gap and bid crazy over, right? So as you can see, our sale to list price, and I like looking at average on this, it's a little bit more reflective, a little bit easier to visualize. So we're back up to about 100% because if it's priced well and it's in good condition, it's probably going to get a couple offers on it, maybe 2, 3, 4 offers, not like 10, 15, 30 offers like was happening last couple of years. So it's a bidding war, but it's not the crazy aggressive spring season. It's more of a cyclical, predictable spring season, very reflective of these years. At least that's my impression being out in the marketplace right now, and that's what the data is kind of showing right now. We're going to have some sharp recovery just because we had a much sharper drop, as you can see, because our bidding wars were so crazy the last couple of years. So I don't expect us to get up to the 105, 6, 7% sale to list price. I think we'll probably in the next, for the March shoppers that are under contract right now that are going to close in April, and those numbers will come out first week of May. So for the next month's data, I'm expecting us to be maybe 101, maybe 102%. I don't think we'll get up to 103. It's not that aggressive out there in the market at the moment. So some minor bidding wars, something to keep in mind if you're looking to go shopping, be prepared for that. And there is going to be some cash for appraisal gap coverage there. So I haven't had any appraisal issues on my listings, but talking with other agents in the office, there are some that have been coming in a touch lower using that appraisal gap coverage. So if you're bidding over the list price, sellers are going to expect that coverage. For days in MLS, big drop there. No surprise. That happens in a spring market. So 2020, even that dropped because we didn't really have data reflection of COVID until about April because that's reflective of March data, which even then you were fine because we were good till the end of March. So, but you can see 2019, we went from, 27, and I'm on median days in the MLS. So 27 days in MLS in January, down to 15 in February, down to 10 in March. Okay, so pretty similar here. We went from 34 days because it really slowed down last fall because of all the uncertainty, because of the rate influx, because of everything else. So we were at 34 days on market, which keep in mind, that's the longest houses have been sitting around since almost, about 2014, 2013. So we haven't had a balanced market, in a very, very, very long time. And I'll talk about months of supply here in a bit and elaborate on that a little bit more. But you can see we're kind of reflective of, we had things sitting on the market longer, but I think we're going to be down into this range of, okay, things are going to be selling, in 10, 15, or 7 to 10 days. I don't think we'll get down to like the 4, because there are some properties going to sit around. But I think next month we'll maybe get down to median days on market, and I don't know, between 5 and 10. So, but you can see people are out there, people are looking. The showings, it's taking a little bit less showings to get to pending because there's more properties out there, there's more shoppers out there, and more buyers are actually willing to buy versus the people that shop. This stuff's a little tough, but the people that shop in the fall versus people that shop in the spring, people that shop in the fall are pickier because things sit around longer and they feel like they can be, and a lot of times they can. In the spring, it's a little bit more aggressive, so you get more traffic up front, but things go under contract a little bit quicker. So, but you can see we are getting more showings per listing on a monthly basis. Months of supply. So really my overall theme for this is it's a very predictable seasonal market at the moment. If the rates significantly change, and I mean significantly like half a point or more in a short period of time, because we're still in the 6s and 7s. I think there was a lot of expectation that we would be down in like under 6 by now, closer to mid 5s, and we're not there yet. That is keeping a lot of the buyers on the fence, right? A lot of buyers are like, well, the rates are so high, I'm just going to wait. Cool. So what happens when those rates get down to less than 6%, if they're in mid to high 5s? As I tell all my buyers, I'm like, cool, I get that, but you are not a special and unique snowflake as much as you would like to be. So there are a lot of people thinking the same thing as you that plan to go shop or go buy when the rates get better. So when there's more buyers looking to buy at the same time, that causes more bidding wars, more competition, more having to cover appraisal gap coverage. You have to put more down or put more cash to cover appraisal gap. You have to waive your inspections to be more competitive. So the opportunities that you have right now are the inventory of a typical spring market, not as typical as the last couple of years. There's really not much out there, and we'll talk more about that in months of supply here in a sec. But because there's not much out there, and there's also a lot of stifled buyer demand because of the rates, they're kind of balancing out to a very seasonal market. So as I mentioned, it's very predictable, just less quantity and less transactions than we would normally expect to have. And that's actually reflected over here in like our pending listings. So we have, 4,000 or 4,100 under contract properties in the month of March, but we would expect a few more. Like there's just, the last couple of years are so hard to reference, but we had almost 5,000 in March of 2019. We had 5,000 in March of 2018. We had 5,000 in March of 2017. We had 4,500 in March of 2016. And so you can see back in 2015, 5,000, but we're only at 4,100. So we're down about 20%. Or 25%. So you can see that it's very predictable, but just less going on than normal. But because there's less people listing their home, so we have kind of two things going on. We already talked about what's stifling that buyer demand, which is those rates being so high relative to what they've been in a long time. Long term, it's not high for reference, but everybody's been looking at, rates for the last 10 years have been sub 5 or even sub 6, and now you're at 7, everyone freaks out, right? So it takes time for that to settle into the new normal. The buyers that are out right now realize like, hey, that's what it is. I want to buy a house. I can either keep paying rent or I can spend a little bit of extra money and go buy a house, versus the last few years with the rate so low, you could actually spend less on your mortgage than you could on rent, which historically has not been the case. So that's keeping a lot of the buyer demand down. But what's keeping a lot of the seller inventory down, so keeping the sellers from listing their house and moving, is this lock-in effect of these crazy low rates that you've gotten for the last 10 years, right? So it's really hard for sellers to say, hey, we had another baby, we need more space, all of those life changes, right, that would typically cause people to move. However, they're like, well, I have a 2.5% or 3.5% rate on my house, somewhere between 1.5%, which is nuts. People have that on a 30-year mortgage, but somewhere between 1.5% and a 4.5% or 5% rate. And they're like, so if I sell this and buy something else, it's now going to cost me exponentially more, sometimes double on a monthly basis, to get that extra bedroom, to get the little bit larger house, to get into the neighborhood I wanted, whatever reason that would normally cause people to move. So that motivating factor has to be significant. and has to be enough to motivate people to lose that awesome rate that they have locked in. So that's causing a lot of people to not list their house and not move, or they'll buy something else and they'll say, well, my rate on that is so cheap, I can rent it out and more than cover the cost of my mortgage versus selling it, right? So that's keeping our inventory and our supply low. So you can see for our months of supply, we're still just over a month of supply. But as I mentioned, very reflective, right? So it's very reflective. So March 2018, we were the same. March 2017, just about the same. So it's very reflective and predictable, but there's just less quantity, less new listings, less active, less pending listings, less closed listings than we've typically had. So anyway, that's just my overall theme for the April Denver housing market. I'll go back to price here just because that's an easy one to see. And I always love watching the hills and the patterns and how the prices go up over time. So if you are looking to buy or sell in the Denver metro market, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love the opportunity for an interview to see if I'd be a good fit to help you. And I live in the data. I'm an engineer. I'm a nerd. I love understanding patterns and cycles and using that to my clients' advantage. So a lot of times my seller clients, if price top dollar is what they're looking for and more buyers competing on their home, I'm going to say, hey, let's plan to list this time of year, given your situation. Maybe their situation's different and it doesn't make sense to wait 6 months to list. Okay, then let's list this time because this is typically what happens that time of year. So understanding the market and the seasonality and the cycles and what is likely to happen given economists' predictions of rates and things like that, as much as we can have information on that, really helps my clients use those things to their advantage and strategize and game plan for that. So for a lot of my buyers, depending on their situation, if they can't compete, I'm going to say, hey, let's go shop in June, July, August, September, November, December even, because then you have other opportunities. And if you have a low down payment or you don't have a lot of cash to cover things or you want some negotiation leverage, that's a better time to shop. So it's all about understanding the data and using that to your advantage depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So anyway, if this was helpful for you, please hit the like button down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. If there's anything else I can do to help, reach out. My contact information is down below. And thank you so much for the time and have a great day.